Interns and doctoral students. Theorize a didactic multi-vectored approach to data-driven quantitative longitudinal analyses. Try to remember where you left your sandwich. And wonder in the deep pit of your soul if the beings in the petri dish look upon you as a loving God.
Or an Old Testament God? Because it's time to talk Ptolemy.
More like an old test tube God.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. I live a life of regrets, and that's one of them.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are Feckless Moans.
And this is Talk Ptolemy,
A weekly symposium in which Professor McGill and the furtive pipette peddler Omen Sade will present shocking new evidence to support our long-standing theory that Jeffrey Hammond is, in fact, the missing link in the ladder of human evolution. We will postulate, predicate, mitigate, and obfuscate jazz theories and acoustical data, all seeking to create a working analysis model of prog rock band Jethro Tull. We will put lyrics into the centrifuge, musicality into a high-pressure chamber, and if they don't renew our funding, we will release a nuclear-powered, unstoppable musical death machine into the world. Yes, deny us publishing again and face the wrath of Mellotron!
Wow, you went all out.
Once I started, I couldn't stop.
And I'm here for it, Omen. I'm happy about it.
Because you've got nowhere to go!
Because I'm stuck in a box. Goodness me.
Nick, hi.
Omen, hello.
Hello.
I thought you were going to call yourself just a pipette, not a pipette peddler.
Well, the pipettes have to come from somewhere, Nick.
It's true. When a mommy and a daddy pipette fall in love.
That's where you get supply chains from.
That's it. Supply side economics.
So Nick,
I don't know what that is.
The supply of Tull to talk about this week is quite a lot.
It's hefty. We've got 2 songs to talk about.
The supply may in fact exceed the demand.
I think that is accurate. Yeah. Plus 4 emails.
Okay.
Before we get into emails, I've got 2 very brief anecdotes.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Nick.
So, as you know, Ray was downstate this weekend on family business.
Your wife, yes.
So it was just me and Rook all weekend.
Yeah.
Which means I got to play Jethro Tull all weekend out loud.
Oh no, what have you done?
So we were listening to Ian Anderson's solo album, The Secret Language of Birds.
Yes.
And we were on, I think, track 2 or 3, Little Flower Girl.
Okay.
Down at the church, the flower girl sits, legs in the center part. I made the picture puzzle fit to start your heart.
Apropos of nothing, Rook looks up at me and says, "It sounds like a sad person is singing." And I said, oh, Rook, he is.
Yes.
He very much is a sad person singing.
From the mouths of babes.
And then, on top of that, after that album, we listened to the Christmas album.
Okay.
The J. Tull Christmas album. And on another Christmas song, completely out of nowhere, he looked up at me and said, "Hey, it's easy to stand on one leg." And he like picked up his leg, true flute style, and just stood there. Like the magic of Ian possessed him,
That's crazy.
And he's never done that before.
Nick, I would love to reach out to our fans at this moment and ask if you have ever had any paranormal, unexplainable Tull phenomena that you'd like to share with us. Please do so.
Yeah, I would love to hear if your 3.5-year-old was inspired to stand on one leg while listening to Jethro Tull as well.
Very, very interesting. That's great, Nick. Oh, hold on a sec, Nick. I'm just getting something coming from.
Marley.
It's coming from under the floorboards. Oh, hello?
Oh no.
Hello? Is that you, Mary? No, it's Marley today.
What? How did he get over there?
I don't know.
You have a problem in your insulation.
Oh. What's the problem?
Well, you see, I crawled through it and disrupted all of it.
Oh,
Sounds right, yeah.
that is a problem.
I'll leave me hat under the floorboards.
As insulation
I guess.
or consolation,
As-
either or.
Why are you leaving your hat?
Stuck on a nail.
Okay. Okay.
So no, not for you at all. He just
No,
can't get it
no.
back.
All right. Well, stay safe down there. Stay safe down there, Marley. Marley? Oh God.
Oh, uh-oh.
Okay. Well, do you have some emails there that you want to read, Nick?
I do. I've got a couple really quick ones.
Your emails, sir.
Why don't you start us off?
This one is called Tullochdotes number 1, R.E. Talk Tull to me, which I can only hope we'll be having more Tullochdotes in the future. This is from a new listener, Riley
The
P.
portmanteaus are really getting out of hand on this show.
Oh, love everything about it. Love it. Love it so much. Greetings, Nick and Omen. First off, great podcast. I'm a huge fan. My friend Andrew and I are what might be called the Australian Nick and Omen.
Oh.
You wash your mouth out with soap. How dare you?
They're taller and more handsome.
That's right. Just blonde and beautiful.
Right.
I have several Tull anecdotes, which I may drip feed to you over the coming months. Here goes. Tullochdote number 1. Many moons ago, Andrew wrote a piece of music that he thought was amazing. He sent it in the form of carefully handwritten sheet music directly to Ian Anderson.
Oh no.
I laughed at the hubris and futility of such an action, saying he will never write back. But he did.
What?
His response was curt but revealing. Embedded against the pleasantries of what was obviously written by his PA, he said, I have about as much use for sheet music as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Checks out. Sounds right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's Ian right there. Thank you so much, Riley.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciated. Can't wait to hear more of those Tullochdotes.
You truly are drip feeding us these fun stories like a morphine drip.
Oh yeah, it numbs the pain.
We keep slamming our hand on the button, but there's nothing more for today.
No, we've used our quota.
That's great. That's really fantastic. Thank you.
We've got another one from Andrew L., a previous writer-inner.
Yes, excellent.
Also an Instagram follower, greatly appreciated. Oh, and this I think we might want to do a new segment for eventually.
Okay.
Short message to say, for most of my teenage years, in Requiem, when he sings, fading into the traffic, watched her go.
Fading into the traffic, watched her go.
Instead, I heard, fading into the traffic, marched a goat. No idea why. It made sense to me at the time. Keep it up, Andrew.
You know, with all the animal references in Tull in general, and also specifically in that song,
Yeah.
I can understand thinking that.
Not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
And the last one I've got from Gunslinger, also a previous writer-inner.
Ah, yes.
Just finished up Living in the Past episodes, and I'm raising steam to get caught up to date.
Ooh.
Yeah, nice reference
Nice.
there. The show gets better and better. Yes, as a matter of fact, it does. Since you brought up the live version of Nursey, have you heard the live version of Hymn 43 from the 2005 live Aqualung album?
Oh.
If not, it's worth a listen. Enjoying the ride, thank you, Mike.
I don't think I have heard that, Nick.
I hadn't either until he brought this up, and we're going to play just a little bit of the opener. That's the part that sounds really the most different. Let's give it a quick listen here.
Hymn 43 with amendments.
Oh, Father high in heaven, smile down upon your son.
That is so cool.
Yeah, we've got the 2000s Ian voice going on there,
Right.
but we've got some beautiful mandolin working on that.
Yeah,
How
in
lovely.
the whole composition of that seems like it's really Ian is reaching back into his ancestry, to his Celtic roots, and really
Yeah.
drawing on that. It's really, really fun. We've got the mandolin, got the bass line kind of giving us the map of the original composition.
Yeah. And we stopped it early, but later on it does pull into the heavier electric sound after
That's
that.
super fun. I recall
Yeah.
when we saw a couple of shows in the early mid 2000s.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
I remember there was one show that they did like an entire half of it was all acoustic, and I remember they did some kind of
Yes.
Celtic influenced versions of some of their old stuff.
I mean, it seems that Celtic or Brit country folk is really speaks to Ian as we've heard in live versions and as we're going to see as in the consecutive albums. Yeah.
Oh, indeed, yes.
And honestly, that the audience that is attracted to Tull is predominantly attracted to that sound, I would imagine.
I think that there is some crossover interest, certainly.
It's fairly safe to say, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving us that treat. That was delicious.
Yes, very much, thank you.
We have an email here from Arend R. Location unknown, which means I don't know what accent to do for this.
Omen, dare I say, pick whatever accent you want?
Yeah. I might just do it in my regular voice so that the listeners can hear
Okay.
what that sounds like finally.
Oh, it'll be a nice change. I better put a warning in here.
Okay, great. Subject on Minstrel in the Gallery. Message, Mr. and Mr. Momes. I discovered your podcast relatively recently and have been thoroughly enjoying it. Not only your discussion of each song, but your wit as well. As someone of similar age who discovered Tull in high school, late 90s, early 2000s,
Perfect.
I appreciate the perspective you bring. In your Black Satin Dancer episode, you mentioned that the song wasn't performed live until the 80s. My understanding is that they never even performed the actual song, but rather Martin's solo was incorporated into an instrumental melody break, sans Ian. I looked at the set list from around that time using the Ministry of Information Tull Tour website, and other than the title track, the only album track that seems to have been played in concert during that time was Requiem, and only a handful of times. This is fascinating stuff, Nick. The fact that for them to play music from Black Satin Dancer, Ian literally just had to leave the stage.
He just can't. I can't do it. I'm sorry, Martin, if you'd like to do the solo, by
I'll
all
go have
means,
a quick cup of tea and
I'll go have a
the wee
tea
cry.
and a
I'll be back in
whiz
10 minutes.
and weep.
He continues, I've always felt that Minstrel is perhaps Tull's greatest album.
Oh, it's close. Yeah.
With Ian's songwriting in top form and the band's playing both intricate and ferocious. Despite this, I get the impression that Ian himself isn't particularly fond of it. I once read him refer to it as minor Tull, although I can't find that particular interview now. Please forgive the comparison, but I'm reminded of a baffling quote from another famous creator, George Lucas, who once said, "The Empire Strikes Back is always written about as one of the best films, but actually it was the worst one." The disconnect between creator and fan is interesting to me. The artist is personally connected to what's happening behind the creation, and the weight for that at times must be enormous. For Ian, I suspect his feelings are less about the album's quality than they are about the personal subject matter. I get the impression that as Ian prefers to think of himself as a showman, and he's not very comfortable performing songs that reveal too much about himself, perhaps he thinks of it as too self-centered. I'm curious to hear the Momes' muse on this. Thanks for everything you're doing. Arend.
First of all, thanks for dropping in the George Lucas quote there. I don't know where you got the audio from, but that was good.
Yeah,
Saves me some editing.
no problem. I have all of his quotes just on a loop.
Yep, that's not a bad idea, yeah.
Well, Arend, I totally agree. I think that it is fascinating to see the disconnect between the reader or the fan's appreciation of a piece of work and the artist's feelings about it. It reminds me, Nick, as I'm sure no doubt this has leapt immediately to your mind.
Yep.
It reminds me of
Marcus Aurelius.
no close. It
Jules
reminds
Verne.
me of Virgil.
Oh, there we go. That was the last one. Yeah, that's my bingo card. I'm done. I'm done for the night. I'll go.
When Virgil was tasked with writing a Roman epic which would rival the Odyssey, he first went home and threw up a couple of times, passed out, and then he got to work and he wrote the 12 books, which we now know as the Aeneid. But he was originally planning on writing 24 books, the first 12 about the finding the spot where Aeneas was going to found Rome, and then the second 12 about the founding of Rome. He died before he could write the second 12.
It literally killed him.
Well, one of his last acts was to demand of his servant on his deathbed. He said, "I need you to go and take all my manuscripts of the Aeneid and burn it, because it's not worth reading. I have failed in my task."
Yeah.
And the servant was like, "Yeah, sure, Virgil.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'll get right on that, Verge.
Go ahead and die." And then took it to the publisher, and it's been torturing Latin students ever since.
Yeah. No, I had to do the Aeneid in Latin as well. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say I had to burn my manuscripts as well.
I did. Yeah. That's why I'm not a published author.
But I do think that that is a common theme. I think with all really great artists, there is some stuff that everyone is like, "Oh my gosh, this is brilliant," and they're like, "Oh, if I have to hear or look at or think of that one more time, I will combust."
Yeah, it's interesting that the more that we dive into, particularly these later albums, like middle years albums, the more I think about how much we as fans and the Tull Skull listeners as well, because if they weren't diehard fans of Tull, they wouldn't be listening to this.
Indeed.
Our charming banter aside, how much there is so much that we're drawn to in terms of the Tull catalog that we find brilliant and so engaging. And that seems to be traditionally not the stuff that Ian plays in concert, because it's the more personal stuff. He'll play Locomotive Breath and the first 5 minutes of Thick as a Brick and Aqualung every single concert.
Sure.
But those are because they're the hits, and they weren't that terribly personal. How many times does he play Slipstream? How many times does he play Summer Day Sands even? I'm seeing that really interesting turn here. And I think one thing that I'm taking away, particularly at this point in having done, I don't know what, like 6 albums now at this point.
Yes.
Is that every time we do a song, that becomes my new favorite song.
Yeah.
because each time we really delve into it, we can really see what's going on with Ian, and we can really see that personal feeling about it.
Well, I think there's another factor here, which is that some artists have the luxury of dying before, once their oeuvres have been sort of created.
Yeah.
Ian has had to confront his work for 50 years.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like he dropped 10 albums and then was out.
Right.
He dropped 10 albums, dropped 10 more albums, dropped another 6, dropped a couple more, Christmas album, a couple of solos. And he has to confront all this stuff every single day. And imagine how many times fans write to him and are like, "Slipstream, I just love it so much." And he's like, "Oh God, I don't want to, I just, I want to play something new."
Yeah. And it's a matter of, because there is such a deep catalog, there will inevitably be drastically varying levels of fandom.
Yes.
So it's
indeed.
it's easy to cater to the Aqualung fans, and maybe that's the most rewarding at this point, because everything else is so gosh darn exhausting. Maybe, I don't know.
Could be, Nick. Could be. Now, you mentioned wrapping up the album. Why don't we wrap up this section so that we can wrap up the last 2 tracks on the bonuses?
Rock and roll. I love that idea. That's it. Thank you, everyone, for writing in. As usual, give us some more feedback, give us more Tullicdotes, etc., etc. Let's hear a couple more jump starts as well. It's been a while since we've had those. But now we are going to wrap up the last 2 bonus tracks of Minstrel in the Gallery. Omen, what are we going to start with?
We are going to start with a peculiar little ditty entitled March the Mad Scientist.
That we are. Let's give that bad boy a listen, shall we?
Yes. Well, Nick, there it is.
There it is, under 2 minutes.
It's a short little one.
It is 149. It's a nice little acoustic number. Nothing electronic, no drums even.
No drums. I believe it is 2 acoustic guitar tracks.
Is it 2 or is it 3?
Well, let's say at least 2. It sounds
At
to me
least
like there's a
2.
rhythm guitar and then Ian noodling to high heck over top of it.
Yeah, I think his noodling has reached such a point that I can't tell whether it's just a single noodle or a double noodle.
He's got more noodles than an Italian grandmother, Nick.
It's my Nona is impressed, I think is safe to say.
And then there's a bass in the back, and it is
I believe a stand-up, is it not?
definitely a stand-up bass. You
Yeah.
can hear the strings slapping against the neck if you listen
yeah.
carefully.
The change of fate and the fate of change.
There is a definitive sound. It is definitely not electronic at all.
You can hear that Hammond has not clipped the nail on his left index finger. No, I don't know, but you can
It's
really
so
hear
specific.
it. It has a lovely sound.
Yeah. And then at about 1:15, we get a little synth, I think. A little synth that turns into a piano. I believe it's synth because it is a very weird sound, and then it's followed very quickly by piano.
Oh yeah, there is that sound. I missed that on
Yeah.
just listening, but I remember hearing it when I listened to it earlier today.
So he locks it all away from view and shares not what he thought he knew. And April is summer bound.
It's got to be synth because right after we get the of
It almost sounds like a pipe organ.
it's peculiar, yeah. Maybe it is an organ which would keep with that acoustic sound. Technically,
Or
right?
it's the synth imitating a pipe organ, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, peculiar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I don't want to diss this song because I quite like it, but I do wonder if there's maybe one noodle too many.
A little
'Cause the
busy.
thing-
It's a little busy, you think?
The thing that I like about the guitar playing on this song are all of the walk up and walk downs. It starts in the very top, the intro. Dum 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 dum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
It's really lovely.
Yep.
And I think that maybe there's just one too many noodles in the noodle party, Nick.
Yeah, I'm a solo noodle guy most
I've got a
of the
little
time.
pasta gut after this song.
I'm a little bloated.
I
Got to back off the carbs.
I need a Campari and soda to settle me after listening to that.
Yeah, that digestif will really make you feel better after listening
That's
to
right.
March the Mad
That's right.
Scientist.
What do we have to say else musically about this, Nick?
Nothing, Yoda. Thank you.
About this, what have we to say?
Not much. I mean, we've identified everything. We've hit that really kind of the most peculiar part is that weird synth part. The hearing that stand-up bass is a really nice change.
How would you describe? There are a couple other musical things I want to hit that have just occurred to me, but I want to ask you, how would you describe the mood of this song in terms of colors? If you were to synesthesize this song,
I get do you remember? I don't know. You've always been a Mac guy, right?
Sure.
But back in the day when Windows Media Player was a thing, you had an option to have like a spirally, like almost tie-dye thing that would play when you would play music on Windows, and you would get
I do
certain
know what you're
jabs
yeah.
and splashes. I get that kind of an orange of that kind of spiral. And maybe, to be honest, I did listen to this on Windows Media Player in college, and for some reason I'm scarred by that image.
I'm sure that is true.
I'm very confident that it is, but that's what I get. I get like a swirly, inquisitive orange, if you will.
New in 2021, the color that everyone's wearing, inquisitive orange.
That's right. That's I'm gonna get a car colored in inquisitive orange. Yeah.
The thing that I find so fascinating about the construction of this song is that it starts in this, what I would describe as a dark sound. Dum, dum,
Yeah.
dum, dum, dum.
It kind of plummets into that minor, and then very gradually works its way out.
And then when we hit the phrase, and March the Mad Scientist, it opens up into this very sort of bright, the tempo and possibly the time signature changes as well.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it laments off.
Everyone the same. And March, the mad scientist, brings a new change in ever-dancing colors. He rings it here and he rings it.
It covers a lot of territory in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it does. It's exploratory.
It is researchful.
Yeah, which feels pretty right, actually.
Shall we now transition to talking about the lyrics, Nick?
Yeah. Yeah, Omen,
Yeah.
what would you like for Christmas?
Oh, I was thinking of, my old polarity is kind of worn out. I was
Your
thinking about getting a
classic
new one.
request of a new polarity. Well, to be honest, your binary are a little desperate.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
What would you like for Christmas? A new polarity. You're binary and desperate.
Nick, a question for you.
Is the question, what the hell does this song mean?
Yes, that was what I was going to ask.
That's funny because I was going to ask you the same thing.
Well, before we talk about what the song means,
Mm-hmm.
what I have found successful in previous times when we get super stuck with a song, when we're confronted with a song that really is opaque like this,
Yeah.
I try to look for a keyhole.
Okay. Have you found any holes, Omen?
When I was in kindergarten, I looked for keyholes. I had one of those little brass paper connectors, and I would go around my kindergarten classroom looking for what I thought were keyholes. And I found a lot of them, and one of them was like right at the perfect height, and I stuck it in, and I felt like someone kicked me from behind, and all my
Yep.
hair stood on end, and I dropped the thing. And I
Yeah.
went and told the teacher, and she was very displeased, and then put little plastic covers all over all the outlets in the room.
All those keyholes.
All those keyholes in the room. She didn't want. I still haven't found out what the secret is.
But you've
But-
never felt so alive.
I've been chasing that high ever since. But I'm curious about the phrase "March the Mad Scientist."
And March, the mad scientist.
It reminded me of something, which was a phrase, which is "mad as a March hare."
Oh, okay. Okay, which comes from Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Well, it was used in Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, but it
Right.
it's an old expression, "mad as a March." Oh, he's mad as a March hare, and it refers to.
So it came before that.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
it refers to observations of English hares
Okay.
in the spring, especially in March, which was the breeding season for the European hare, or the
Mm.
Lepus europaeus.
Okay. Okay.
So to be mad as a March hare means to be, observed exhibiting a strange behavior.
Squirrely, bouncing all over the place. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that Ian has played with that phrase, mad as a March hare, March as the mad scientist. March the mad scientist.
Okay.
So for me, I feel like what he's doing is painting a picture of this figure who is mad and a scientist.
Right. It's taking that mad scientist idea and applying it to. It's like it's taking it off of the Victor Frankenstein and putting it on more of a like standard scientist.
Or observing it through perhaps a more poetic lens.
Okay.
So, and I think that in the first stanza, we have the scientist speaking. And the reason that we can't figure out what in the heck it's talking about is because that's how it's intended. It's very
okay.
common to.
Yes. It's a jargony thing.
Exactly. Yeah. When we make fun of scientists, we do what I did in the intro. We just string together a bunch of incomprehensible words because that's what we feel like when we hear experts talk about something
Yeah.
that we don't know about.
Doctors, scientists, lawyers, business
Yeah.
people, etc. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
All of it.
Mhm.
It's sort of the dottore archetype from the Commedia dell'arte.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So here we have this scientist, perhaps. Oh, you want a new polarity? Your binaries are desperate, and the high figures that lick us with a hotter flame. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Perhaps all of that is comprehensible to the person speaking it.
Yeah, it's somewhere scientists are listening to this and just laughing
Nodding.
their asses
Mm.
off. Like, he
Yes.
would. He would.
Mm. So, and then we get into the next stanza where we hear the scientist is bringing a new change, the ever-dancing colors. He rings it here and he rings it there, but no one stops to see it.
He rings it here and he rings it, but no one stops to see.
It reminds me of, it kind of conjures for me the image of a scientist making all these discoveries that are exciting and unique and completely incomprehensible to anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, buried in some scientific journal that you have to be really niche and subscribed to and have a doctorate in underwater basket weaving to really appreciate.
Yeah, and I to a certain extent I can sympathize with this state because my parents are scientists. You know this.
Yes, yeah.
And so I know from observing them that we picture scientists in popular culture as like working in a lab and, they're like, oh, we need a new chemical. Look, I have it right here. I've made it. Now we'll be famous and rich. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way.
No.
Oftentimes the life of a scientist is to struggle to secure funding, do this long-term project, and collect data that maybe never gets analyzed, that maybe never gets published, that they can form conclusions about. Maybe they do get published. And, perhaps at the height of success, they are well known within their community, and literally the rest of the world goes on as if it's never happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, you just spent the last 3 years of your life trapping and tagging the western vole for its foraging habits in the month of March.
Right.
And by golly, you've discovered something that will change vole the view of voles for the rest
exactly.
of
But
science.
for the broader population, they're like, okay, so
Okay. Vole, it's just like a mouse, right?
a vole is like a mouse. Yes, it's a small rodent.
Yeah.
But there's something very fascinating there, and I wonder for me what Ian's window into this, what inspired this song. I'm sure we'll never know.
Yeah, it seems terribly niche. It seems like there's something very specific may have inspired this commentary.
Yes, but who could say what it is? I mean, maybe it was a dream.
Exactly.
Maybe it was just a passing thing
Yeah.
that he read in the newspaper.
That would be my first guess, is something that he randomly saw in the newspaper or heard on the radio of a news story of someone
Doing a science.
I'm going to do a science now of explaining something that he just had he could not comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that settles March the Mad Scientist. Oh man, how many times has March the Mad Scientist been played
In concert?
in concert?
I'm thinking 7.
Based on setlist.fm.
Okay. Although maybe we should check the thing that our
Yeah, what did he
recent
say?
writer inner
Ministry of something or other?
the Ministry of Tall songs. While you're looking that up, Nick, this song reminds me of a part from Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels where he meets a scientist who's very excited, and he's like, I've been working for 15 years and I'm only 7 years away from successfully extracting the sunlight from cucumbers. And he's just like, okay, great. Have you looked up your info?
I have.
Okay. How many times has it been played in concert?
I see 36 in total.
Wow.
35 in the year 2009
Okay.
by Ian Anderson, solo by Ian Anderson.
That-
And then once in 2010 by Jethro Tull.
How bizarre.
The one time in 2010 was Tull in Union Chapel, London. The first time in 2009 was September 9th, and it was Ian Anderson at Proctor's Theater in Schenectady, New York.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what the top 10 scientific breakthroughs of 2009 were?
Very bit of a stretch, but yeah, I do. I definitely do. Yeah.
Element 114 was confirmed.
No.
Doesn't name it. Progress toward a vaccine for dengue fever. That's quite sexy.
What about the ones from 1975 when this was written? Isn't that
Oh.
more important?
I was curious about what inspired him to start playing it again.
Oh,
but sure,
okay,
Sure,
okay.
impatient Sally. We can look at
Yeah, let's go to the first like two from 75.
1975 in science. Space stuff.
Oh, yeah,
biology.
probably
What do
space
you want
stuff,
here?
yeah.
Space, biology, climatology, computer science, mathematics.
Wow,
Oh,
honest.
Benoit Mandelbrot coins the term fractal.
Benoit Mandelbrot.
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 Bill Gates and Paul Allen form Microsoft in Albuquerque.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, Fractal and Microsoft. I'll take it as monumental. Sure.
On August 8th, the term global warming is used for the first time in its modern sense by Wallace Smith Broeckter.
Because he heard Ian Anderson talking about it.
That's exactly why.
All right, Omen. Anything else for March the Mad Scientist?
It's a lovely song. I understand why it's a bonus track and not on the full album.
Perfect way to put it. Wonderful.
Nick, shall we put this scientist to bed and move on to the next song?
Let's slip into our lingerie and put the scientist to bed.
And April is summer bound, and February's blue, and no one stops to see the colors.
And dance a sexy dance to the pan dance. And dance a
That's-
sexy pan dance. There we go. Before we go in, I just want to say I can't hear the word pan dance, the term pan dance, without hearing pan dance pancakes ever again.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that.
All right, let's listen to pan dance.
Let's have a listen.
Pan dance pancakes.
Well, Nick, there we have Pan Dance.
Oh my goodness, do we have pan dance?
Are you a fan dance of Pan Dance?
I am the fanniest of panniest dances.
I don't know if we can say that on this podcast. This
I'm
gets
so-
published abroad.
We'll mark it as explicit. I'm sorry.
Okay. What is your favorite part of this? What is your favorite aspect of this piece of music, Nick?
Oh my goodness. Wow, I did not think to have to come up with something that would be a favorite part of my favorite part of this is that this is a Tull song that Ray actually enjoys.
Wow, that is
I sang a
high
lot.
and unusual praise.
Yes, both accurate. Yeah, Ray, I know I've said this many times before and will attribute it to many songs to come.
Indeed.
This may be the most beautiful song in Jethro Tull that I've heard in the last 5 minutes, at least.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's break it down musically a little bit, eh?
We certainly can't break it down lyrically.
Although this music is very lyrical, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, that's valid.
So at the top we have flute.
That
Maybe.
fun, like warm-uppy flute kind of sound.
Yeah, which is very maybe an echo filter on it, and possibly doubled and backed by the organ.
Okay, I'll need to re-listen to that. Yeah.
At the very top, but it's a very unusual sound.
Mhm.
We have the flute is forward. It's a flute forward frolic, this song.
Yeah, the flute takes the place of Ian's dulcet tones here. Yeah.
It does. And for me, I feel like this thematically, in terms of the construction, we have kind of a dynamic pull in this song between its Baroque influences
Mhm.
and it's kind of modern primitivist tendencies.
Interesting. Okay. Define modern primitivist tendencies.
God
here.
damn it, Nick. Why would you ask me to do that? You know I just made that term up.
It's like it's as if minstrel and songs from the wood had a baby.
Yeah, it is like that, which is interesting because the next album is Songs from the Wood, is it not?
That is not.
It is not.
No,
What's-
it's too old to rock and roll. It's that one that feels so out of place for me.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because of the disruption in the timeline, probably.
Of
So
the sound timeline, the
Right.
sonic chronology, if you
Right.
will. I just coined that term. It's trademark.
it's going to be in when people look back on 2020, they'll be like, "Oh, Nick McGill, the first use of sonic chronology."
Yeah.
Interesting.
Put it on Wikipedia. Yeah.
So for me, there's this. There's two kind of sounds. There's the it's using some music modalities that we don't hear too often. It's not like just straight up major key. It's something that sounds a little more Grecian or something. It's a
Okay.
little playing with some of those unusual flats and sharps.
Okay.
But then contrastedly, we have the Baroque sounds of the dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
You know the bit I'm talking about.
I had a girlfriend in college who had some unusual flats and sharps. Thank you.
I think that joke was kind of Baroque.
I'll see myself out. Yeah, it's two at certain points seemingly disparate pieces laid over one another.
Well, even that intro, we have. There's that sharp change from the.
Yeah.
And then it like drops that.
Mhm. Much like March the Mad Scientist, it's a very busy song.
It's quite busy, and it has some abrupt changes,
Mm-hmm.
much like March the Mad Scientist. March the Mad Scientist has those two really different sounds. This is similar in the sense that we have these two different pulls. Almost, Nick, and sorry to jump into the themes of this song, but it almost reminds me of the contrasting pulls of Apollonic and Dionysian arts.
I will have to take your word for it.
Well, in Greek mythology, you have the different gods. Obviously, Pan is
Yep.
a reference to one of those, the god
Mhm.
Pan, whose name comes from panic.
Well, the word panic comes from pan, I imagine.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And they do talk about in art, the various influences of these gods abstracted into our modern minds.
Okay.
Apollo was the god of light and clarity and all this. And so, if you call something Apollonic, it's like it's all logical. It's all logic and well lit and straight lines and nice angles and everything is very, well laid out.
I had a girlfriend in college who had nice
It
lines.
was very well laid out.
and
Yes,
well,
all right.
well laid out and bright angles. Yep.
And then to contrast, we have the Dionysian part of the mind, which is all, the rebellious, the messy, the dark,
Yeah.
the curves, the drunkenness, the fun.
Sure.
If you
Okay.
like that sort of thing, which,
I mean.
And so this song reminds me of the kind of contrast between those two things. You have the sort of dark, primitive, primal feelings, and then you have the Baroque, logical things fighting alongside of it, Nick.
Okay.
Have I been saying all this out loud?
I've been listening to you for the last 5 minutes, so I certainly hope you've been saying it out loud.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. There's a flowy poetry aspect to it, but there's also something that's a little more off the beaten path, a little unhinged, a little manic.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but they do fit well together, and there are instances where there are two of the same instrument or two cousin instruments, we'll say, that are playing those two separate pieces, but because of that sound, they do seem to fit together.
Yes, sometimes they provide counterpoint, and sometimes they provide dissonance.
Yeah, the violin and the cello working together, the acoustic always going on in the background, the tambourine playing for the manic side, and then doing a little splash here and there for the beautiful flowing flute.
I reckon we feel the delicate hand of Miss Palmer in this song.
It's been so long since I felt her delicate hand, and frankly, I'm nothing but pleased.
Lockdown has really got you got you turned around.
I'm so lonely.
There's another fun thing that I want to point out in this song, Nick.
Okay.
Which, speaking of looking forward to heavy horses and songs from the wood, specifically songs from the wood, we have the double claps.
Yes, yeah. At about 1:45, we got claps. Yep.
The trademark folk rock Tull double claps.
Yep.
Love them.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on here.
There's a lot going
Glockenspiel at about 1:10, which turns into
Yes.
xylophone at about 2:35.
Indeed, alchemy right there.
Yeah, that's right. Strings come in hard at about 2:10. We got some drums and cymbal kind of very lightly in the background. I think it's a splash in the background for the cymbal. And for the drums, I think it's timpani.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's got a broader, open sound as opposed to an actual set, which feels right for this song as fitting with that whole orchestral theme.
Do you remember my Pan costume from high school?
Was I ever privileged enough to experience the Pan
I
costume?
wore it to the Funky Formal one year.
I didn't partake much in the funky formals. I kind of just sat on
That's
the
true.
side, so
Well, I looked great.
I believe it.
Glued on some chest hair, had some furry pants. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that chest hair has not come off yet. It's really awkward.
The only stuff that I have. Now, Nick, I do want to point out something interesting in regards to this title, Pan Dance.
Okay, sure.
I found an album by the Dave Brubeck Quartet
Ooh, okay.
from 1961.
Okay, I like Dave Brubeck. Give it to
I
me.
like him as well. Named Near Myth,
Your Myth. Okay.
with songs including titles such as The Unihorn, Bach
Yup.
and All,
Good. I like it. Keep going.
Siren Song, Pan Pipes by Jupiter, Baggin' the Dragon, Apollo's Axe,
All sounds really good for experimental jazz at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
The Sailor and the Mermaid, Nep Dash Tune, and the final track, Pan Dance.
Oh.
So I
Okay.
don't know that Ian is making some kind of sly jazz reference here.
Not outside the realm of possibility.
On my perfunctory listen to Brubeck's Pan Dance, I didn't hear any striking similarities, but maybe
Okay.
I need to take a deeper dive into that.
I'll give her a gander and find the thing that most reminds me of Pan Dance
Sure.
and see if I can drop it in there.
I think that's wise, Nick. You know what they say? A gander in the hander is worth two in the pander.
They have said that. They stopped saying it for a while.
They stopped once it was made illegal. Well, I'm in a lot of trouble now.
I think it makes sense why now that I hear it out loud. I've read it a couple of times, but hearing it out loud, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
Well, Nick, anything else that we want to say about Pandance or March the Mad Scientist or, indeed, Minstrel in the Gallery?
I don't have anything particularly about the two songs that we've discussed today. But I do want to know, have you learned anything? Is there a new favorite song? Do you have a new appreciation for something? Does anything stick out for you for this album, for Minstrel in the Gallery?
I have been so touched by hearing across the waves of time, the troubles of a lonely man. I never, I didn't know, because of the context that we've researched. I didn't know about what Ian was going through and what his sort of état was at the time. And now I feel it coming through the album, and I have the feeling of compassion, and I'm just glad that he's in a better place now.
40 years later.
40 years later. But it's good to remember that, the times that we are lonely and the times that we're heartbroken, those times don't last forever.
We're not alone. We are not the only ones who have experienced these feelings.
That's right.
And there is always help out there.
That's right. Yeah.
And I know this will be airing after the holidays, but holidays are a big time for depression, and
Sure.
Particularly now when those people who are actually using common sense and staying away from family, like, it can be hard. And there is most certainly help out there to talk to. For times of distress, there are so many options out there, but the National Alliance on Mental Illness has a helpline that you can call legit at any time. I believe it's probably only for the States. Please do your research or speak to someone if you are outside of the States. I wish I could offer more. But the National Alliance of Mental Illness hotline is 800-950-6264. Please do not hesitate. There are very compassionate people out there who will help you through things that you need to get through.
Whatever you're going through, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, Nick. No matter what you're going through, reach out. There are people to help, and you can always write to us for any of your Tull-related feelings.
Yeah, we'll talk you through anything Tull. Yeah, that is what we are here for.
Your Tull crises, that's what the Feckless Ones are here for. Well, Nick, next week, we have the exciting pleasure of unwrapping a brand new 40-year-old album.
That's right. It's a little dusty. We'll blow off that dust and we'll break into Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die.
Too young to die.
I won't die until I break a hip on this Gibson. What? And the first track off of that album is Quiz Kid.
Oh, I love that one.
Quiz Kid. I just re-listened to this album the other day in anticipation, and I'm looking forward to this. It's been so long since I've listened to it. It was a bit of like, we got to get through Too Old to Rock and Roll, but I'm kind of excited about it.
No, it's got some good ones on it.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Until next week, Nick, try combining mysterious elements in your beaker. Stir them together with a glass probe, and if you do it right under the right heat, you will create 5 stars, which you can give to us in the form of an iTunes rating.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll use it. We'll get peer-reviewed ratings and brag about them. I'm not ashamed of it.
We'll do a double-blind study.
Yeah.
We'll give half of the people Talk Tull to Me and half of the people a placebo podcast.
We'll just tell them that they're listening to a podcast about Talk Tull to Me, and it'll just be silence. They'll be listening to sugar.
Exactly. So, until next week, I am dedicated to the scientific process, Omen Said.
I am freewheeling, piss in the wind, Nick McGill.
We are the Revelry Witches Feckless Momes.
And this is the inevitable disaster that is Talk Tell to Me.
Abrahams, come to me.
Yes, master.
Tonight is the night, Abrahams. Tonight is the night we shall fulfill my wildest dreams.
I cannot wait. Weeks of work, master.
They said it was impossible. Bring me the 14-volt megawatt enablers.
Here you are.
Yes, and now give me a 10-millimeter wrench.
Oh,
10, that's a 12 millimeter. I'll give you a 10 millimeter. Oh, yeah, that's the one, that's the one.
A 10-millimeter wrench.
I'll connect this over here.
Yes, we're almost there. Ah, Abrahams.
yes, master.
Where is the jar?
The jar?
Bring me the jar!
What's the jar?
The jar that's full of Talk Tull to Me!
Oh, the one that's a proud member of the Feckless Momes Audio Network.
Yes! Now throw the switch! It's a proud member! It's a proud member!